And there is not one article worldwide on those stats. I mean,
that's crazy.
Even possible?
No, so, it isn't, because there's information on everything.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what you Google, you'll find something.
So there is nothing on the stats of women in mining business.
Wow.
To the extent that I could not conduct a literature research. But the way I had to go was actually interview key stakeholders, which I've been very fortunate to do. You know, I've managed to interview CEOs globally, heads of government, heads of the unions, to find ways of how we can do this. I'm now at the end of the PhD, and to date, there's still no article about it. So yes, if you want to know the landscape, you're not going to find it on the internet.
Well, I hope people will be a bit more educated once you've sort of put that out there.
So it's very minimal women in there, and those that do get there have a difficulty staying there. The challenges are real. I'm an entrepreneur in the industry for 23 years, and I have faced challenges. And I mean, I'm not afraid to be vocal. I'm not afraid to take the platform. But I've also been locked in a boardroom. I've also been threatened. I've been there. So it does exist. It's real, and women battle to stay.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of story that I shared up front, I mean, I think that is it's such a simple example of the difficulties of just of a woman trying to succeed in that industry. It is a tough industry. Having to drop your kid off, you're a single mom alone at home, trying to make it in the mining industry and having, you know, those kind of challenges. That's probably the least of her worries. There are many, many more.
Well, let me give you another example of something that, I mean, you're basically attired as a woman underground. It's compulsory to wear a one-piece overall. So there's majority men there. When you go to a toilet, you've got to remove that entire one-piece.
Yeah.
So women don't use the toilets underground. They wait their 12-hour shift before they can go to surface. How ridiculous is that?
It's hard to hear this, isn't it, guys? I mean, I know you're sitting here, all of you are like, what did I sign up for here? But it's true.
There are alternatives. If the mines won't buy,
They won't buy it.
because they say what they have is working.
So, Clive, let's bring you in. I mean, you're hearing us talk.
I'll jump straight into it.
Good, go for it.
So up until, I would say, 5-6 years ago, maybe a little more, the story about the overalls was quite an interesting thing for me, because I was on the other side buying. I was chief procurement officer for Nedbank Platinum, and we had to make sure that we actually increased the number of women underground and increased diversity. And up until that stage, we were actually using a two-piece overall for people that were in the process industry, but the pants of the lady was still a zipper in the front. So when you start to look at procurement, you look at exactly what you buy. Are you buying stuff that is conducive to actually women in mining? And you have to think completely differently, because it's a male-dominated industry for years, but it has to change. It has to change. And so that's just one example of, we have to think completely differently about increasing women participation in mining.
And we know that it needs to change. So, I mean, Clive, you're a specialist on the subject of procurement and supply chain, you know, transformation and measures that mining companies can put in place to ensure diversity and to ensure inclusion. These are some of the efforts that you're trying to do. So, you know, what should be done? I mean, are the things that are in place now actually working? Are we seeing more inclusion? Are we seeing more black-owned mines? Are we seeing women coming in at a faster rate, or is it sort of stagnating a bit now?
So I would say that mining has come a long way in comparison to other industries. The mining charter has a big drive towards pushing inclusion and diversity, and I think they've done good work. But it's now taking to the next level. And I think some of the companies that I get exposed to use this very much as a tick box exercise to make sure they have their BE scores and their BE levels to be increased. So it's outsourced the activity to someone to do the work, but really not passionate about actually changing the landscape of their communities and the area in which they work. So So I think measuring is quite important. I think the department has got a big role to play, the MRE, to make sure they go and monitor, check, follow up, and see the customer, see mining companies are actually compliant or not compliant. And also having a situation where they're not compliant, what are they doing to actually get them to comply? Starting to look at penalties and driving the approach. So I think the industry has come a long way, still got a long way to go. I think the diversity part, which is more specifically black women-owned businesses in mining, still needs to have a serious catch-up. There are just too few women-owned companies that are actually supplying to the mining industry. Then the other part is youth-based businesses. If you look at most mining communities that we have,